Well, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to come and show you what I got finished. So I've been working on this for a little while. Pardon the darkness, going to my bedroom. And finally got all your kids' books to put in one area. And so we have a lot of books to go through. Next one after we finish the aviation one is there's another classic airplanes one. So I can keep going on the aviation ones and keep going with that theme. And then I also found another set of books that I forgot we bought at one point. And they were a Star Wars Phonics, a 10-book set. So we'll try to jump in and get some of those other books read and do some other things to keep you guys entertained and watching the series. But today we're picking back up with civil aircraft. Civilian aircraft. We are on Modern Airliners Evolve 1934 to 1945. Now what happened during that time period? That's super important. World War II, you're right. World War II happened. Started in the rest of the world, but the United States was drawn in on December 7th, 1941 when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. And it ended in 1945. So, here's a start. Right here we got a, get the book so I can read it, SM-83, 1938. United Airlines ordered 60 Model 247s from Boeing. The type represented a sea change in capabilities. It had twin engines, retractable undercarriage, was made entirely of metal, and seated 10 passengers. In terms of safety, not only could it maintain height with one engine stopped, but it could still climb, and it cruised at 250 kilometers per hour, or 155 miles per hour. Now, in aviation, they use knots for their speeds, but they don't have it adjusted in here. So, all of the United Airliners were rendered obsolete on the day that the 247 entered service. But Douglas was working on the arrival, the DC-2. Similar in concept to the Boeing, the Douglas proved to have the greater developmental potential and longevity, but TWA's plans for it went thrown into disarray on the eve of a service entry. On February 1934, President Roosevelt canceled their primary air contracts. He believed that some airlines had been unfairly favored when the contracts were awarded and called for a shake-up of the system. TWA's Jack Fry joined with World War I ace Eddie Rickenbach to fly the DC-1 prototype across the country in just 13 hours 4 minutes, demonstrating how far civil aviation had come. But the President remained steadfast, and the Army Air Corps took on the mail. So that was in 1934 the Army started flying the mail. Using a selection of the general unstable aircraft flown by pilots who lacked the training necessary for long cross-country flights that were often at night and in bad weather. The Army continued its efforts until June 1, by which time the deaths of 10 pilots had convinced the President that he was wrong. And the airmail contracts were reinstated, and the American Airline recognized as American Airlines, Eastern Airlines, TWA, and United Airlines. Their operators were no longer permitted to have association with particular manufacturer, but generally their work continued as before, with new contracts being fulfilled and routes reestablished. And here's top ones at Boeing 247D, the one that we're just talking about. And the bottom one is a S-21 Mercury Imperial Airways aircraft. The Boeing is from 1935, and then this is from 1938. Boeing Model 247 was well established in service by the time that the airmail contracts were passed back to the commercial hands, while the DC-10 began service TWA's transcontinental route on August 1, 1934. Ironically, it was the introduction of the airline that saw the 247 surpass and one of the greatest transport aircraft of all time created. American Airlines had begun a transcontinental sleeper service on May 5, 1934, using the Curtiss Corridor II. The Curtiss biplane was unable to compete with the DC-2 in terms of speed, but America was keen to maintain its edge on sleepers service, and therefore asked Douglas for an enlarged DC-2, a machine that emerged in December 1935 as a Douglas Sleeper Transport. American subsequently revised its order for 10 of the DSTs to 8 of the sleepers and 12 standard transport. The latter were designated DC-3s. Meanwhile, Lockheed's an airplane manufacturer, had also been working on advanced airline design and its 10-seater Electra entered service with Northwest on August 11, 1934. It followed the type with the 12-seat Model 14 by the next airliner. The Superlative Constellation went the way of the similar machines from Douglas. The DC-4, which was designated to enter service with the United States Air Force during World War II, the United States Big Four Airlines had joined PAA in 1936 to fund development of the large Douglas airline. The 4-engine DC-4E was tested in 1939 but proven deficient. Subsequently, it was revised for military service as a C-54, and by the far majority of DC-4s in the airline service post were ex-military C-74s. So we got a 200 Corridor from 1938 and a DC-3 from 1936. Pause it, take a look at the information, enjoy, learn. But the last interwar laugh was undoubtedly Boeing. Only 10 of its Model 307 Stratoliners were built, but the type pushed airline travel to yet another level. The 4-engine machine, the Stratoliner, featured cabin pressurization. As such, it paved the way for higher altitude, faster flights when it entered service with TWA in 1940. PAA used its Stratoliner on routes to South America, but in 1941 it was forced to add to its fleet of TWA's flying wartime transatlantic service. European rivals. While the U.S. aircraft manufacturers were taking great technological leaps forwards, European industries were taking a rather more conservative approach to airline evolution. France, Germany, Great Britain, Italy, and Netherlands all poses thriving aircraft companies capable of developing modern airlines to rival those in the United States. In France, a series of new types allowed Air France to order safer, faster, much more reliable service. Typical of those machines, the Block 220 was an all-metal equivalent of the DC-3, while the DeWalt D.338 was a long-range tri-motor, all of metal construction. Both types entered Air Force service and offered impressive performance by World War II. Cut their use and sales potential short. British manufacturers were firmly locked into satisfying the need for the Imperial Airlines and airlines that were failing to compete with the modern aircraft being introduced by its European rivals. There were movement of inspiration, however, in response to the government's requirement for higher speed, long-range Mail planes, a de Havilland flew its DH-91 Albatross for the first time on May 20th, 1937. The company had built a solid reputation through its touring and training, now its production of four-engine machines for remarkable performance. Unfortunately, technology kept the Albatross from service, and World War II brought an end to an airline potential with just two machines flying the BOAC service into 1943. Here's another Boeing 314 Clipper. It is from 1938. And then the bottom one is a Boeing 307 Stratoliner from 1940. Go ahead and take a gander here. As usual, read yourself, pause, learn. There we go. Undoubtedly most important of the Britain's advanced airlines was a short S-323 flying boat entered Imperial service in 1936. It flew the routes to Australia and South America, and its performance was magnificent. But again, war curtailed operation. In 1938, however, Imperial used the variation of the S-23, the S-20, to prove unique concepts in civil aviation. On February 6, S-20 Mallard released the S-21 Mercury 4-engine mailplane. The concept beyond the so-called Mayo composed was due to the Mayo gave Mercury a boost in the range and payload. Before its release over Atlantic for a non-stop run to the United States, the might well have worked, but was abandoned as war loomed. See, World War II screwed up a lot of aviation issues, but it also helped it after. In Italy, produced the 16-seater seat fixed undercarriage SM-3 trimotor and the larger, more advanced SM-83. The latter had retractable, better performance, but the S-73 was cheaper and remained popular even as production switched to wartime needs. In the Netherlands, the proud Fokker tradition was fading as the company failed to embrace the new construction technologies and the technologies of its rivals, especially those in the United States. Their story was very different in Germany, however, where the aircraft industry seemed without restraint. In answering Luftwaffe's call for aircraft to rival the best in the service, the German aircraft companies produced a succession of advanced designs, many of them eminently suitable for conversion to the military use. Others produced with military roles in mind, but under the cover of civilian specification, fascination mix of civil and aircraft resulted from Germany firmly at the top of the commercial aircraft tree, but also established names in the midst of European population that would come to cause terror in the not too distant future. Okay, top one is a C-51 from 1941. It's a C-51 Curtiss. The middle one is a Lockheed Lone Star from 1941. And then the bottom one is a de Havilland Mosquito from 1943. Pause it, read it, enjoy. Okay, that is that section for now. Next, we start a new chapter called Post-War Resurgent. So until then, hope you enjoy, and I'll keep reading and you keep watching. Thanks, have a good one.